Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Jackson from hip-hop metalcore band Designer Disguise.
Hello. How's it going?
We are under attack. The blood comes rushing back like shells against my lungs. It started out with sticks, and now we're throwing bricks. One day we'll tear it all down.
I wanted to start out by digging into some of your history, how you got into music, when did you start singing?
Yeah, I mean, if we go way back, as a kid, like as a baby, one of the things that I would do is I like get the pots and pans out and hit them and also like my family always talked about how I would hum and sing as a baby. And I always liked music. Like I got into like Blink 182 and like Something Corporate and Good Charlotte like in third and fourth grade. And then I started playing piano in second grade. Um, and then in seventh grade was when I was like, it was this funny thing of like, I was in sixth grade watching a choir performance, being like, this would be a lot more fun if I was up there doing it because this is boring this way. And like, I've grown on enjoying choral music, but like, I just got into choir. I was one of like four, male voices in there, and in middle school, it's like 98% female, and so from then on, I was like a coveted piece of the choir. And high school chamber choir, a cappella groups, musical theater, and started my first garage band called Save the View. I don't know if any of our stuff still exists because it was on MySpace, so like it was back then. But I actually played guitar and sang in that band, and it was a lot of fun. And then basically, I went to college at Willamette for a couple of years. I was in their opera program, in their chamber choir program, and their a cappella program, and going there for music and voice. Um, and I've studied voice like starting like private lessons starting when I was a freshman. So I've been studying voice for like over 10 years. Um, and then I transferred to Western, and I wanted to. It was like electronic music and stuff was really popping off, and it was becoming very popular and cool, and to produce music and use it. And I really wanted to know how to do that, and so I joined an audio minor class that was like audio tech, using the studio. And on the first day, I'm in there, and it's like cool, and we're in the studio, and they're like, well, can we get somebody to sing so we can like test out these microphones? And of course, I'm like, yes, me. Which usually in most classes is like, everybody's like, I play guitar, I turn knobs, and I was like, I'm here to sing, really. Like, I want to know what's going on. And so I was singing. It was great. And also during this time, I'm like seeing this other guy in there. He's quiet. He has really long hair. And he's got a leather jacket on. And I'm like, this guy said the least stuff, but I feel like he knows the most stuff. And so afterward, me and this guy kind of like come up to each other, and he asked me like, hey, like what kind of music do you like? And I'm like, I like all sorts of music, kind of not really sure where he's going with it, but also like being able to tell that he's asking like a specific question. Me thinking like, yes, I like alternative music. And we got there, and it was like, do you like metal? And I was like, yes. And it was Josh, our guitarist. And he was like, do you want to be in a band? And that is the first day that I met Josh. And we have been in a band ever since. That first band was a different band. It was like it was called Dorsia, which is the name of the restaurant that they can't get into in American Psycho. He's always like, "Can I get reservations?" And they're like, "Ha ha ha ha." And so it was just like your basic metalcore screams, and we're kind of like metalcore now, but that was like metalcore. And then after like a couple years of that, Josh and I were kind of like, I think we take this a little more seriously than the other people in our band. Maybe we should, you know, think about some changes. And then we realized like, well, let's just leave the band and start our own new band. Because Josh had gotten to know this person named Keegan, who played in the band called Truth Under Attack, a huge pop, I mean, huge, like a locally huge pop punk band. And he went on tour with them, and their bassist Keegan also managed them, and they had ended. And so we all came together with Keegan, a person named David, so Keegan Chapman, David Cubine, Josh Wildhorn, me. There's a person named like Cody Schweshki who like showed up for one practice, who's like super talented. And then like that was 2015, I think, and we formed Designer Disguise, and there it was called the Enclave for like a moment. It was like Fallout was big, and that's like one of the factions. But then we went through this whole thing of I wrote this like essay about why I thought it should be called Designer Disguise because it's the name that I came up with. And on the inside cover of our first record, like EP called Hearts and Minds, there's this like just like kind of long-winded, like really like long words, like kind of over the top, like it's the key to self-actualization when you design your own disguise, you know. And but like I do stand by it, but I also remember like they were like, well, why should we name it that? And I remember like I was like in my underwear on my bed, like hunched over my computer, being like looking up words to like try to make it feel like really smart. When it really comes down to is like I love the alliteration. I do like the I still love the name. But then we ended up with that, and it's been a long, arduous journey. We've had a lot of lineup changes. Josh got sick with leukemia when we moved to here into Seattle, and that was like right when we were like really getting ready to go. And it sort of felt like this whole time we've just been really trying to make sure this thing keeps happening. And in the last couple of years, we joined up with In Vogue Records and got signed, which is really cool. And my teenage self would be like, "Oh, you're famous, amazing." But myself now is like, "Okay, this is where the real work starts." Like, and in the last 2 years, we've created what's coming out next, which is our album Elswaer. And there's a lot of little in betweens and whatnot. I sing pop music and all that, but basically it's all kind of come together into Designer Disguise between hip hop, metal, and pop. Like I'd say I'm the pop person, Josh is like the metal person, and then Hoosty's the hip hop person. And we all have aspects of each of the other ones, but like that's what kind of brings it all together, and that's kind of how we've ended up here.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, could you name a few of your musical influences?
Big time. For me, if I'm like thinking all my musical influences, like My Chemical Romance, the Backstreet Boys. There's like all musical theater kind of generally. Like I grew up singing a ton of Disney and stuff. So very like eyes on the horizon, like twinkling eyes, and really, really emotional and narrative driven uh, stuff. But I listened to tons of just like My Chemical Romance, like The Used, Census Fail, Under Oath, Hawthorne Heights, like Armor for Sleep, who just came back. And then like my favorite band for a long, long time, and somebody I still love, it was initially Something Corporate, but their singer Andrew McMahon went and made a band called Jack's Mannequin. Like there's a song called like Dark Blue that like I kind of got big, and then he's now Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, but he plays piano and sings, and that's kind of how I got all started. Like I started playing piano in second grade, and I would when no one was home, I would like write emo songs and not tell anybody about them. And I'm just trying to think of other musical. I mean, Bring Me the Horizon. Like I've always felt like I've listened to them since the beginning, and I've always loved them. And I've never been somebody who's like I don't get what they're doing. I'm like yes, I love that. And oftentimes like I would be like, wouldn't it be? I'd be to Josh. I'd be like, wouldn't it be cool if we like did this sort of thing? And then like the next 2 weeks, Bring Me the Horizon drops an album and did that thing. Like And so they've always kind of been. I've always felt like I have like a kindred spirit with Ollie because I'm like, you're thinking the same stuff as me, because and you're able to execute on it quicker. But like they're huge, huge for me for sure.
I wanted to dig in a couple of your songs. Lifeline was released September 15th, 2022. And I love how it turns around during the song. Like it starts out in like a negative, dark place. And then towards the end, it goes to a positive outlook.
What's cool about this album that's coming out, Lifeline is a part of it, is it's a concept album. And it is a narrative, like A to B narrative. There's not like, oh, I'm not sure what this song is about. Like I could tell you what every song is about. And but what's beyond that, what's cool is the songs are still about our own lives. Like it's not like about just this person. We're taking our own experiences of emotional turmoil and turning it into this sci-fi story. And so in this song, it's about the main character Kai. Um, he lives on a planet that's like a forced labor camp, where he has to mine for the New Order, who are the bad guys, and he essentially like something really terrible happens, and his girlfriend is killed by the basically the stormtroopers of this universe, and he's like, what is my purpose in living? I've given up. Like there's nothing left for me here. And in the middle of the song, in the second verse, you'll actually hear it's like, met a dude at a bar with some dreams from afar that caught me blindsided. And it's literally like, like a rebellion guy is like, hey, like, you might not have anything going on here, but there are bigger things out there that we could get into. And when they're on the last chorus, they're getting onto that guy's ship, and he's thinking like, maybe there is some hope, maybe there's something bigger than this. And you hear right before this like sort of noodly part says take off, like we're 3, 2, 1, take off, and that's literally them going up in the ship and leaving the planet. And then when they pop through the atmosphere, it gets all quiet, and he's like, I think we can make it. And it's like he's finally having some hope. And that is very much, I think, reflected in our own lives of having gone through these really tough struggles of, you know, with struggling with, suicidal ideations, and Josh struggling with his health, and us being like, is any of this worth it? We're breaking our backs doing something that is hard, and we don't see the future, that we can't see it. But in the last few years, we've really begun to feel like we think we can make it, and that is very much an illustration of our own feelings. But it's cool to have that exist in both spots, where it's like, here's the plot of the story, and also like, this is how we feel. And that's basically like the inciting event. Well, not the inciting event, but like the catalyst for him going off. It's like the fourth song on the album. And before that is like Abandoned Ship and Destroyer, which if you have questions about that, I can get into it. But it all takes place on like a linear timeline.
Wake up. Face pressed in the dirt again, it's hard to stay up. When I just end up getting hurt again, cause I'm jaded. Claiming they come to free us, taking a walk down these streets. You see just what it means by the way that they treat us. When they leave us defeated, deceived by the lies that defeat us. Hope we can see to the lies and that we just fall in line and give allegiance. In search of some power beneath us, and when it's retreat we achieve what? Cause peace in the eyes of the leaders came at the price of the lies that they cheated. And it feels like I've been chewed up and spit out, that I never figure it out, I'm a screw up. Yeah, no direction and a question, if I only knew what it'd take to grasp my fate and let it all go.
Yeah, my next song is Abandoned Ship. You released it November 11th, 2022. And I'm just going to recite one of the line in your song here. You're playing the demon, but do you believe it? The hate you're fighting for, feel the corruption, the crowd, they all love it. Can you tell me a little bit about that line?
So we were writing this, during the pandemic. I mean, during a lot of protests in our country and a lot of rallies, political rallies, and just seeing this a whole group of people. It felt like sort of giving into hate and giving into, I mean, just all sorts of people like living in division and and being a part of this bigger conflict and love like liking the evil that was coming in, wanting to be a part of something so that they didn't have to feel unsafe. Sort of like in our song in the universe, it's literally about like the Empire. For it's called the New Order, but to make it easy because it's like basically Star Wars. The Empire is having these big things where it's like we're gonna freak up the whole galaxy, and everybody's like, yes, love that, and nobody's taking a stand and realizing that they're propping up this evil. And I think just with so much going on in the world, or between the pandemic and elections and stuff, it just felt like we wanted to write something that was sort of like a protest song. In the song, it's literally the rebellion members reflecting on like what they've seen in their universe before they get blown up by the bad guys. Reflecting on fighting for good and reflecting on whether or not the people who are sort of buying into it even realize that they are. Yeah, and so in that video, they're running away from the bad guys who have found them, and they're trying to send a map off. And so as they're like doing that action, very the beginning of Star Wars, as they're doing that action, they're reflecting on all the things they've seen, why they fight, why we want to continue this fight for good. And then at the end, they get exploded by the bad guys, but they do get the map off. The map is sent to the character in the fourth song, Lifeline, who meets Kai, and then they go off with that map to find the flame, which is the thing they're finding.
I wanted to talk about you had did a cover song of Chandelier with Alex. I wanted to ask how that came about.
It's actually kind of a fun story. So, our drummer Chris was getting married a few years ago, and he and his wife Kaylee did this thing called festimony, where like their ceremony was a festival. And so, because like Chris plays in a bunch of bands, he basically had all the bands he plays with and some of his friends' bands come and play. Like the the service was like pretty short. There was like it was very musical, and then after that, it was just like at this big property kind of out east, and there's a stage, and we played it, but we wanted to include his wife because she is an amazing singer. And so we were like, well, she actually was like, I want to sing this. I want to sing Chandelier. And we were like, great, that we would love to. And so we made it. We wrote it. I produced some of the stuff for it, threw it over to Josh. He put it all together. And then we did it with her, Kaylee, at the festival's festimony. And then after that, we're kind of like, this is a really good song. We should, excuse me, we should release this. And so we were like, we're friends with Alex and Ossetia, and we have always wanted to work with them, and we just hit him up and was like, "Do you want to do this?" And he was like, "Heck yeah!" And then we recorded it and went into a big field up north, and made the video together. And we've been close ever since, and we're actually working on a demo right now with Alex, and we're hoping to do another cover with them just to kind of, repeat the fun that we had.
What do you guys got planned for 2023?
2023 is going to be an eventful year in terms of us releasing music. So on January 20th, we have the album dropping. So there'll be another music video for the song Stardust, which is the last song, and then a 10-song album. I guess it has an intro, and then 9 full tracks. And we're really excited for that to come out. We've been dropping singles since like July, and we were creating it for like a year and 4 months before that. So like, or even more really, because we started writing while we were still releasing our old stuff. And so it's a long time in the making of getting this body of work together. Even though we kind of live in a singles land, like we really wanted to make this. And like during the pandemic, it was like, what else we're gonna do? Things are kind of weird. Let's really dig into this. And so January 20th, it'll drop. We're gonna go on tour on the West Coast, hitting Seattle, Portland, Grants Pass, Sacramento, Colton, which is near San Bernardino, and San Diego. And we have our hometown show in Seattle where we're going to play the whole album. And that's really exciting. We haven't had a headlining show since before the pandemic. We were actually on the day that like things got locked down. We were, or the next day, we were going to have our hometown show and then leave for tour. And like we still have all the merch from our Nowhere EP, and we're bringing it with us on tour. But like we were about to go, and it really feels like we're picking back up where we left off. But I think honestly, like in a better position. And then beyond that, we have written lots and lots of other songs that we really, really like that weren't space songs. And so basically, once we release the album, like we don't plan on stopping. Really, we really want to keep it going. And recently, one of our sounds, like a goofy sound for Get Low, we made this cover of it, and it went viral on TikTok. And so all these people are showing up on our page all of a sudden, and there's all this demand. They're like, new music. And I'm like, it's coming, y'all. It was already coming before you got here. And then, yeah, after it finishes, I think we're going to kind of do like, I was talking about how Hoosty is sort of the main hip hop guy. Josh is the main metal guy, and I'm like the main pop guy. I think we're going to do something where we all like kind of let us take charge of one song and like be the musical director for that song. And there'll be like a Hoosty track, and then a Jackson track, and then a Josh track. Kind of like, I don't mean to like relate it to the Beatles, but with Beatles, there's John songs and Paul songs and Ringo songs, and so we're gonna kind of do that and allow ourselves to be tools for whoever the musical director is at that moment, because I think we all have like cool visions that we want to like help grow and do. And then depending on how like well things are going, we really want to get back out there more on tour than just this first one, but it is very expensive, so we'll see.
Okay. Where can we get a hold of you guys? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter?
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I don't really use Twitter that much, especially now. It's not like a great platform. But we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on TikTok for the people that use TikTok. It's very happening over there. We were all kind of like, we got to do this. And we did it, I'd say, in relative obscurity and silence for the last like 9 months, until literally on Sunday, all of a sudden we like look down at our phones. We're like, why do we have like 500 notifications? Yeah, all of a sudden, and now like it hasn't stopped since then. People are just pouring in. Like our Spotify graph is like, whoop. And so we're trying to keep riding that wave. So if you want to come over there, it's a lot of fun. We do lives there, like when we're making our covers and stuff. We just flip it on, and you can see us being the goofy people we are while we make this stuff. But we're easy to reach. Just design. If you type Designer Disguise in, or if you go to designerdisguise.com, We have a pretty sweet website. It'll take you there. Yeah.
That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Pre-save the album, pre-order the album. It's out on January 20th. The links are on all those on all those socials, so it's not hard to find them. But thank you so much.
Morning light hits the iris and I'm miffed. Can't believe I made it through the night. Kinda scary the way I get. Heard a dude at a bar with some news from afar and a couple blindsided. About a feud in the stars with views to be sparked in my mind. That's when I decided that I know I can't keep living this way. I've been waiting for something to change. No more will they kick me around. Was lost but I found. I've been focused to channel my rage. I believe in a second chance. Offered by a chick at the second hand, and now I see it. Opportunities await to me, it's just what I needed. A newfound purpose, and now it hurts just knowing that I could've let it all go.